Hello and welcome to the Men's Movement Podcast. I am your host, Vince Casey. This is a podcast where we explore the rising culture in men's healing and interview top thought leaders about the positive shift occurring in the masculine consciousness. The Men's Movement Podcast is in partnership with the Brotherhood of Cascadia. Brotherhood of Cascadia, connecting men to their hearts. This week's guest is Bric Bain. Bric is the creative director at Sacred Sons, a worldwide men's organization focusing on strengthening men's mental health. He is also the director of their new short film, Aaron. With over a decade of experience leading teams, producing impactful digital content, and driving culturally driven marketing strategies. He is the man with the vision. Without him, there would be no us. Bric, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for the invitation. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, where does it all come from? From the branding to the logo to the content, the color scheme, the partnership with Golden Threads, the merch. It all seems so on purpose and so on point. Where do you draw your inspiration for all this?
I probably wouldn't say this maybe 6 years ago, but I'd say it comes from spirit, and it comes from all the teachers before me and all of the visions that I've been a part of in their aura, going down the train tracks of what I'm building with them and everything that I've learned through all these different journeys. It always progresses into the next creative project and just learnings on learnings. And yeah, I just have to give like all the gratitude to my teachers, honestly, because without them, I'd have nobody to rub up against to grow more and to be learning even the smallest of lessons.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do want to get further into that and the short film that was just released entitled Aaron. However, we all just got back from the most powerful weekend of our lives. It was one of those monumental moments that may be looked back upon in history and said, that's when it began. That's when we started to heal the divide between men and women. That's when I shifted my paradigm of what's possible in relationship. I'm speaking, of course, about Convergence 9 Remembrance, the first ever Sacred Sons event where the women were invited to do the work with men. Bric, I know there's not words to do this justice, but what was your experience like at C9 this past weekend?
Wow, my experience was magical, just like any other sacred experience is, any other sacred son's experience, that is. Leaving feeling hopeful, leaving feeling joyful, and meeting so many new friends. And it was so beautiful having the women there this time because they got to experience all of these small moments that we know so well in those like I like to say that we have our own pattern that we continuously go through. There is an algorithm to our events. So to see them witnessing that for the first time was it was just brought me so much joy and such a big smile on my face.
Yeah, for sure. What was one moment that really sticks out as the most impactful for you this weekend?
Wow, this is not going to be maybe what you think I'm going to say. It's not going to have to do with the women being there or the big event, but my friend's son being there, Johan, during opening ceremony. Uh, One of the speakers was singing a song, and it was very quiet at the time. He was teaching the song, and Johan was in the distance, and he spotted me trying to fix some audio, and he was just yelling in the distance, "Hey, Bric! Hey, Bric!" trying to get my attention. And it just like made my heart so warm to be walking around the camp and seeing some kids here and there that I've spent a lot of time with and have some time to just play, play some like hide and seek, and play some games with them.
Yeah, having the families there was really impactful because I think it kind of not necessarily was setting a bar, but maybe a goal or a dream for a lot of us is to have a family that's tight and loving and respectful the way that Adam and Hannah showed up and a lot of the other couples showed up with their children. Definitely made an impact on all of us, I think.
Yeah, it's so nice because it's such a different experience having the kids there. I think, this wasn't an event necessarily where we were intending to have kids there. It was more of like a couple leaders having to be able to have their partner there. They had to have, their 2 to 3, 4 children there, and it just kind of made sense in that way. So it's definitely, like you said, the beginning of something of a family camp. So it was fun to see the kids have their own group, their own wilderness program to express, and especially next to that beach, man. I mean, Holland was, finding like starfish and a bunch of some jellyfish too, and a bunch of other random ocean figures.
Yeah, Jasper said they even had an octopus and an eel. So
Whoa, I didn't
lots
hear
of
that.
lots of stuff going on
I
for
heard the people
sure.
saying this, they were seeing seals though.
Yep. Yeah, that was all really impactful. I think obviously probably the two biggest moments for me and a lot of people there were in ceremony. Our first ceremony of the weekend, the men created a big spiral on the field and then invited women to come into the spiral. And as they did so, we were all passing by eye to eye, making eye contact with each other. And, if you would have written down that ceremony on paper, I wouldn't have thought, like, wow, this is going to be the thing that unlocks it. But when that ceremony started with the intention and with the music, just with the souls that were there, immediately I was just shrunk wrapped in tears and just bawling my eyes out. And I didn't 100% even know why. I'm still kind of unpacking all the reasons why I was crying. Almost every woman I looked at during that ceremony was in tears as well. And I think it's something we've needed for so long. And and I'm still unpacking. And for everyone that was out there this weekend, I love you so much. And I need more of this in my life. And I can't wait to see you again. Um, who designs those ceremonies? Is there one person or is it a team? Who comes up with these components?
Oh, well, I just want to honor you, man. Thanks so much for sharing that. Yeah, it was such a beautiful moment. And I knew it was going to happen. It was still unexpected, in
Yeah.
all little moments. I've been talking about this for months now with Adam and Vince of how it was going to go to see. So to see it happen was so beautiful. And yeah, it's one thing to, stand in a circle and sing some songs, have a speaker, to open a ceremony, to close a ceremony, but to bring some movement into it, to bring the shapes into it, really makes a difference. At a not this last convergence, but the one before, what we did was multiple rings of circles. So I think we had 4 rings of circles, and that event we had the youth there. So that was really special. We had the youngest inside. So then this one, the way that we intended it is for the men, like you were saying, to be one side of the spiral and aligned, the women to be another, and then we had when the women started their side of the spiral, they took the hands of the children. So the children got to be in first to honor them and to honor the women. Yeah, those ceremonies are designed by Adam and Vince. Adam Jackson's one of the co-founders of Sacred Sons, and Vince is a really strong leader in Sacred Sons right now. And Vince has a really big vision of the movement, of the design, and Adam really expresses like, his own sprinkles that make it really magic.
On par with that moment, I don't think we can leave out the moment where all the men came out of the woods singing a powerful song written by our brother Kale to the women who were receiving us on the hill. I mean, that was probably the peak experience of the whole weekend for me. And I don't think I've gotten so much feedback from both parties of any other moment because, like the song was saying, the women want us to come home. Like they've been waiting for us. They've been waiting for men that are willing to do the work. And when the men are ready, the women are they're just right on board. That was one of the most powerful things of this weekend too. Is like doing the work with the women. Like a lot of them, it was their first time, but they were just like in sync, in the moment, like fully on board right away. Where I think it took me like 2 or 3 different events before I was like, okay, I'm going to let all this go and lead with my heart. And they met us in such a powerful way this weekend. It was so beautiful.
I actually just got off of integration call for this event, and a woman spoke to the fact that, we're out here in like the wilderness in Washington. So she was camping. And so she said she was walking through the woods back to her tent. And normally she would be, a little scared to be walking through the woods by herself. And at this event, she didn't feel that at all. And she knew that if anybody was gonna, be coming around the corner, it would usually be a man with a smiling face that she could trust. And that felt different for her. And I think that just made my heart like smile to know that that's how safe we made each other feel with our agreements and with our standards.
Absolutely. I know there's a lot of talk leading up to this, and that was the feedback I've been getting. I'm on a few different WhatsApp chat groups, and I'm probably getting 10 to 20 updates an hour. And so much of the time, it's just, I felt safe, I felt seen, I felt respected, I felt heard. All these things that hadn't been online for them before were now online. And so, for all the men that were taking care of their leaky energy out there and bringing forth their heart energy and putting forth their best foot forward, thank you so much. And let's do it again, and let's do it more, and let's do it all the time.
Let's do it all the time. Amen.
Yes, sir. Amen. Yeah, that event was done with such precision, with the emblem of the spiral being incorporated into ceremony not once, but twice with the skydivers. I thought that was genius. The poetry, where the forest meets the ocean, was so impactful. As the creative director, what was your biggest takeaway from all this?
I'd have to say my biggest takeaway is that I love producing events like this. There's something special to being at an event where everybody feels so accepted, where you don't want to leave because it feels so glorious, waking up in the sunrise and singing songs and dancing all night and in the days relaxing with your friends and having those intimate moments of conversations. Yeah, and I appreciate you saying the event felt so smooth and so flawless. And for me, it was, but also since I was like co-producing, there's so many small moments that we were dealing with that you just, you're gonna have to deal with in producing an event that's like 400 plus people where things go wrong. But I think the part that you're speaking to, the smoothness, really just speaks to the men that are part of Sacred Sons and the staff, how they handle the small moments that could potentially become big moments, but the way that they're handling them with their confidence and integrity, they go smooth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we need to get Lath a go-kart next year.
Definitely. I love that he was carrying two walkie-talkies at one time.
That man was an animal.
He's the best. I
Yeah,
actually, me, Markwell, Lath, and Neil shared a cabin. So every night we'd sit on the porch and we'd decompress together. It was really nice.
beautiful. Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that came up for me was relationships. I think that this generation has really taken a hit with relationships. I feel like it's been our duty to kind of take a stand against trauma so our children will be unaffected by it. And it has left so many of us single because we refuse to repeat toxic patterns, and we've had to be single just to heal. And I don't feel like it's essentially normal to be in your 30s and 40s, like raising children by yourself, paying all the bills, doing all the laundry, doing all the yard work. It's left a mark on a lot of us that are out there. And there's just kind of a sadness around it, not being connected to a partner. I kind of came up against it myself even before I left. I called my somatic healing therapist to kind of tell them what was coming up for me, because there was so much energy around like, oh, I really hope I meet somebody while I'm out there, because I feel like there's trustworthy souls out there that are doing the work. And it just kind of had me excited. But yeah, I feel like after I kind of took care of that piece, it really allowed me to be fully present with just the hearts and the souls that were out there, and the sadness to that people were feeling around after the ceremony where all the couples came together and were doing the sacred mirrors. And I think all the single people that were watching were just like, oh my goodness, like, yes, someday soon, please. But it really kind of gave me a peace inside of myself to just belong in my longing. to borrow a piece from Hunter, that sadness that I feel, I was just turning into this longing that was turning into this like manifestation tool. As Chrissy said again in ceremony, she was like, wait, wait, wait for your fuck yes. And that moment really resonated with me. Darren Silver kind of came up with it again, and whenever he reiterated it, saying, only open the door for pearls. So I felt like there was just a lot of opportunity to connect with the divine feminine in a healthy way that didn't even necessarily need to be romantic, that was kind of feeling that void of the lack of feminine energy in my life. And I hope that the men were providing, well, I know that the men were providing that for women as well. And setting the container the way you did with not having any sexual energy for the weekend, I think just blew open the doors for us to kind of connect in a deeper way. And whoever came up with that idea, whoever came up with the idea of having a call to set the sexual boundaries is genius as well.
Yeah, firstly, I'd like to thanks so much for speaking about the isolation part that a lot of people are facing these days, because I really resonate with that, and it's an issue that I'm passionate about. I grew up working in restaurants. I grew up working at a camp. I grew up assisting at a farm. When you're working hard with people in person, building things. And these days I work remotely and I get to travel around the world, but there's something a little different to that. It's like I'm building all day long, but it's on my computer. Sometimes I'm by myself. Sometimes I'm at a WeWork. Sometimes I'm at a coffee shop. Sometimes I'm at a friend's house. So it definitely can be lonely, this culture of working remote. And COVID definitely perpetuated that and fast forwarded it. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but I think it's a lot. I'm seeing work culture shift back to in person. So I find that super fascinating. And I'm looking for more in-person stuff for myself to fulfill that side. So thanks for speaking to that part. And then secondly, yeah, exactly what you said is what I heard from everybody, is that I went to this event looking for a partner and I found brothers and sisters. And I didn't realize that that's actually what I needed. I didn't need a partner. I needed brothers and sisters. And we forget about that in this isolation. We forget about that in looking for the one in the culture of like, oh, when I find the one, I can't look at another man or I can't look at another woman or I can't have any female friends when I'm married. This type of culture that's been perpetuated. We're in a community. That's what the world is about. And the fact that that's not more widely accepted is strange.
Yeah, and let's not leave out the aunties and the crones as well. I got so much medicine from all the women there that I wasn't really
Especially the
fully
aunties.
expecting. Yeah,
Shout out Sarah Uma. Man, she cracked me up all the time. She's a character.
oh yeah, I gave her a ride in my car over to the Spirit Walkers camp, and yeah, she was awesome. Oh my gosh, she was just so thrilled about every single thing that happened. She's like, "Oh my goodness, I'm getting in a chariot with Halo, and you're driving the Shadow Walker and a light beam, and we're just gonna get there, aren't we?" And oh my God, so
That's
much
nuts.
positivity just streaming out of every pore of that woman's body.
Yeah, I love that. She's an all-star and man, there's so many something I keep reflecting back to my core team when we meet up is that it's so cool that not only did so many women join us, but so many badass women facilitators join us. We have like entire people who are running their own organizations joining us, the leader of this movement, the leader of this organization, the leader of this company are joining us to co-build this community platform. So it's not like we're just inviting in, you know, some random people. It's people that we're friends with and that are running their entirely own organization. So we're learning a lot from them as they're learning from us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of my most healing pieces actually came from Vince's partner. Her name is escaping me at the moment.
Karen.
Karen. Yes, she and I got in a great conversation. And I've always had this feeling that whenever I met the person I was supposed to be with, that I would just know. And then the part of me that's never experienced that has a lot of questions around it. And I just feel sort of like maybe it's an escape pattern of actually approaching and dating women. But nevertheless, that's always felt like my truth. And she came up to me this weekend and talked about her and Vince's relationship, and she just grabbed me by the hands and was just looking me in the eyes, just like, "Oh, sweetie, you're just gonna know. You're just gonna know. I saw his picture and I knew it." And I was just like, that was like everything I needed to complete the conversation around relationships that I was having inside of my head. And I was just so free to just interact with everyone and just know that if my queen's there, it's not gonna like escape me. Like I'm not gonna be over there moving rocks and looking and seeking. It's gonna be a moment of the divine, and I'm not gonna have to chase. It's just it's something that we're attracting into our lives.
Yeah, I wanted to share something that's been like might be something that's really useful people for people who are experiencing this isolation in their life or maybe work remotely or, maybe see no one or maybe 1 to 2 people a day. And a big hack for me is actually going to there's a lot of talk about we've lost our third place. Um, and really it's like starting that new third place. So I'm actually a big runner. So I've been going to a lot of run clubs recently. And that's been like a really good outlet for me to just meet community. And I think the key here is, and it's like, replace running with anything else, but you're meeting a group of people consistently, and that builds rapport. And I think that's the foundation of these relationships that we're looking for deeper, that we're looking for in a partner. It's not so much you're going to meet somebody at a bar one time, fall in love, yada, yada. That's totally, possible. But what for me, it's been you get to know somebody slowly over time and you build a rapport with them, and then that's when things happen. So for me, that used to be, a workspace or somewhere I used to go all the time, school, whatever it was. So for me these days, it's a mix of like, the 3 coffee shops that I circulate, the 2 run clubs that I circulate, the gym I go to, recently I've been taking up jujitsu. So it's like these small places where you can just find like friends, and then those friends might turn into a relationship more than that, I think is the real key.
Yeah, absolutely. And even getting introduced to people by your friends, I think is
100%.
one of the best pathways to an actual healthy, thriving relationship.
Yeah, I love that. I think that we're looking for reasons to connect. And that's what Sacred Sons is about, specifically for men, now for men and women. But it's like a lot of men out there are in isolation, and Sacred Sons offers a place to be real and honest and express yourself and really look at yourself like like measure yourself in your health, in your mental health, in your physical health, in your spiritual health, and being like, where am I at in this and where can I grow?
Yeah. Speaking of feelings and deeper things that happen to us out at Sacred Sons, now that we've got to unpack our feelings around C9, let's move over to another monumental moment. How about the new short film that you're releasing with them called Aaron? Can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration for that?
Aaron is an amazing man. And I'm not saying that just from this short film that I got to direct, but the man himself, Aaron, is such a great guy. I've really gotten to know him over this past year, and he continues to blow me away. So I'm so honored to feature him in a something so vulnerable in a piece of art like this, where he's being so vulnerable. I met Aaron at Convergence 8 in LA. And, he was just like anybody else, that I met at Convergence. If you've ever come to one of our events before, there's like hundreds, maybe dozens, maybe hundreds of men, depending on what event you go to. So there wasn't anything special about him. I didn't connect with him necessarily in the moment. And then he got into a fight with Kirill. And when I'm saying got into a fight, I mean like in sacred combat in an intentional way. Not that somebody just jumped him. Um, but when they fought, it really brought out another side of him of honesty, and I saw a wall really crumble where I could really see him as a person. And when you watch the film, Aaron, it's an intimate moment into his process of 3 generations, you know, just to give like a short, synopsis of it, you're going to get so much more from watching the actual short film, but boxing is such great medicine, especially in our community in Sacred Sons. And a lot of people you're either usually like a fuck yes to that or like a fuck no to that. There's usually not like an in between. So either way, I'd give you an invitation to watch this and to see how it can affect somebody. And this actually affected somebody. His name's Aaron in a way that I never saw it affect somebody. When they were fighting, he was fighting this man Kirill, and you know, it was kind of like it was kind of hard for him to hit him. It's kind of hard for him to like get it out. And usually for men, it's kind of like, oh, I can't wait to fight this guy. And for Aaron, it was hard. It was really hard. And then all of a sudden something clicked and Aaron hit him really hard. And that scared him. And that's what the short films is about, is like that power that we have within us as men and the control that we can have or not have of it and how it can come out sideways. And luckily that like we do things in a very intentional way with agreements and there's a lot of people helping and surrounding us when we're doing things like this. But yeah, just an invitation to watch this short film if you are digging more into your journey of spiritual growth, and if you're at all interested in how the physical transformation of that can happen. There's a lot of talk about like ayahuasca and breath work and all these different things, but confrontation can be big medicine.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful example of what could come up for a man in a fight that wouldn't have come up if you just simply sat in circle. And lots of times, what's on our mind isn't necessarily what's living in our body.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love that. It's like the things that you want to tell people in your life that mean so much to you and you don't tell them. And in those moments, like sometimes like that can really help move that. There's things that, you don't want to be left on your deathbed being like, I wish I said this to this person. And that's a little bit of like what this is about.
Absolutely. Are you going to enter it into any film festivals, or do you have that planned out yet?
Yeah, we'll be entering it into a couple film festivals, but mostly wanted to get this out, honestly. Wanted to get this message out, and that means more to me than like winning an award. Also, this is like a preview, to be honest with you, Vince, because I've been working on a larger project that is actually going to be following this one in time. We're just getting funding for it now. So I have many other things like this coming down the line that I'm really excited for. There's some things that happened at Convergence 9 I'm excited for, but really Sacred Sons is started with the mission of showing the work that happens in men's circles and the honesty of emotion. And that's the journey we're going to continue to be on.
Yeah, that's really great insight from you. I definitely kind of feel like, at least from my perspective, that we may have reached a threshold of men that are going to be called into a weekend off of social media campaigns and whatnot with inflation the way that it is. It seems like you're starting to expand into different arenas for advertising what it is we do. And film is definitely going to be very impactful because not only is it going to say, hey, come here this weekend and you can box, but it's going to be like, hey, this might be what it feels like, and you might have a breakthrough like this, and this is what a breakthrough looks like. What are your future visions for what y'all are doing at Sacred Sons look like?
Yeah, I loved your comment there about like social media, and you're totally right. It's like the way that social media changes constantly. It's not a reliable thing. So I really focus on customer acquisition a lot in Sacred Sons, and it's never the same. It always goes through fluctuations, and there's things that I do that are a bit more like tested. There are things that I do that are a little bit more like unscalable. But I think a really important part for marketing that I really work into the way that I work is hitting like a broad array of ways to get the message out. It's not just one way. I don't just post on TikTok. I don't just do Instagram stories. I don't just run Facebook ads. I'm doing things in multiple different ways to hit people from all the different ways that they can be hit, to hit people on the different emotions, a big thing is like a man may not see himself in an image of another man. It's like maybe I see a photo of you, Vince, going through it, and that's what I'm posting, and I write a story about you and your process. And then let's say like an Indian man doesn't see himself in you. Well, then how are we going to get that man to know that he's accepted at Sacred Sons? he's not going to feel that way. So it's my job to be posting in the 360 arena that we live in, to hit people different ways. So a short film is like definitely another way of doing that. And the future of how we're going to continue this mission is going to be the same way that like the past is, for us, is we're going to continue to blast the message all over online. But a really exciting arena that we're coming into is like celebrity. A lot of celebrities in larger networks are very interested in what we're doing. And I'm not saying that we're, selling out or going to, have some NBC show or something like that. We're keeping it with us. But the cool thing is that a lot of people are coming to us because it is interesting. And we're in this movement where a lot of people are looking for places for mental health, for spiritual health. And a lot of celebrities are coming to us behind the scenes, and we're doing private events with them where we're not so much, having an event where you're going to meet, so and so, but we're just having private events with them and their friends, and they're getting the medicine too.
Sure, yeah. Brad Pitt sure got a lot of people to Burning Man, I'm sure. So how did you get connected with the Suns? Did you know them before all this started and they pulled you in as their marketing guy, or did you come in afterwards?
Yeah, so yeah, quick version of a long story. I was really going through it in 2020, and I watched a video on YouTube of a man who vlogged his experience at Sacred Sons of Convergence 3. And this man I'd been following, online for like 10 years. So, I really love I was like felt like this dude was like my big brother. And I saw him go to Sacred Sons and watched his beautiful experience, honestly. And then I didn't even think about it for a couple months there. And then I was going through it. I was kind of in this depressive state, and it clicked. I was like, I know exactly what I need to do. And I reached out to Sacred Sons, Kevin Johnson specifically, and signed up for a Maui experience. And during that time, is when COVID and stuff like this was happening. So I ended up running the LA Marathon. I ended up getting COVID. I couldn't go to Maui, so I didn't go to this experience. So then I ended up just going to Convergence, and that's where I met Adam. I was placed on his team. And at the end of that experience, I walked up to Adam Jackson and I basically just told him that I was going to work for him and he had no other option. And he loved that. And he didn't know me or like what I did, but I was basically told him, I was like, just let me do my thing. Because I see what you guys are doing, and I'm here to just like put the pedal to the floor, to really blow this thing up. And he was very excited about that. And over time, we just became like really good friends. And so we were just texting as just friends for a couple months here. I was just helping him out with stuff here or there where he was asking for support. But as time went on, I ended up going to Maui eventually, and then ended up moving in with another co-founder of Sacred Sons, Neil. And me, Neil, and Adam just became best friends and hitting it off. And I started becoming a full-time employee of Sacred Sons. It's been almost 4 years now.
Wow. So did you have to convince any of them to get neck tattoos to help the brand, or was that something that was already in place?
It was already in place. No, just kidding. I think the first person who got a neck tattoo was Kale. Um, Yeah, he came over to my apartment one day in Maui, and I was like, holy shit, dude. And he was wearing like a white tee too, so it like super popped. And then a couple other people have started to do it since then. But yeah, I think tattoos are a cool way to like express yourself. I'm definitely not one to follow any sort of trend in that way, so you won't see me wearing holsters or having neck tattoos. I'm on my own path, and I'm different from the rest.
Yeah, I like that about you. You're definitely an original. Even that picture you sent over for me, I thought that I don't know when you took that picture, but I know it was from Convergence, and it looks like you've already been through it a little bit. Just like the look on your eye looks like you might have been crying at some point in the weekend, and it also looks like you had this stronger resolve. And with the ocean back behind you, you even kind of had this Val Kilmer, I'm in my prime kind of look. too.
Hey,
So that was a great photo.
I was just sitting up there next to the ocean and Aiden walked up to me and said, "Dude, you should be a model," and just started taking photos of me. And I was like, "Okay." And then he sent them to me.
Oh, that's great. Well, at the end of the day, we're doing all of this work for one thing, improving our mental health and in bettering our society. I've mentioned the men's suicide rates and the addiction epidemic in past episodes that's plaguing men. Was there ever a time that you were struggling with your own mental health, and what did you do to course correct and start creating a better life for yourself?
Hmm. Yeah, so many times was I struggling with it. I can't think of like one time that stood out to me. Maybe I could, but it was kind of a handful of times here and there, the waves. And I think because for me, where I grew up in Ohio, and you kind of spoke to it, but drug influence was a big thing in my life growing up. Um, Doing drugs, selling drugs, being a part of that culture. And I loved it, and I couldn't see how much it was tearing me and like my friends apart. I couldn't even see it when they started dying from, car crashes and overdoses. And to suppress that, I just continued to do drugs, continued to sell. Um, and something that I wouldn't recommend for other people. But what I did was I left. I had to leave Ohio. I knew it wasn't for me. I knew I wasn't going to grow up working in a factory. And there's half of me that is happy I did that. Moving to the West Coast and growing in the career that I'm in. And then there's the other half of me that's disappointed in myself because I'm like, why couldn't I just grow up then, confronting it there and then and being a little bit more of an adult. I ran in a certain way. So I think changing environments is important and can be healthy for us as humans. And then other times we need to realize when we're running from a situation. So I think it's a bit of a mix there. I would say the biggest thing that I focus on these days to promote my own positive mental health is physical exercise and movement. Like I said, I work remotely. That means that the majority of time I'm just standing or sitting in one place. So going to jujitsu, boxing with friends, going to the gym, running, actually having something to train for, to put a marathon on the map and say, I'm running this marathon is important to me to push myself physically that way in work and in life I can perform mentally.
Yes, absolutely. I think that getting in the gym and doing some sort of exercise, even if it's yoga or walking, can be a great way to just build endorphins. I think so many people are just lacking the serotonin and endorphins and don't know really how to start creating that in their lives, and can make a huge difference. Another thing that came to mind, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about this yet, but I heard a rumor that maybe online men's circles is coming.
100%, you're totally allowed to talk about it.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
it's called The Circle, brought to you by Sacred Sons. It is a online membership that is currently $9.99 a month, and that you can join today as you're listening to this. And we're going to have multiple weekly calls that are available for you to join and participate in. And if you've been to a Sacred Sons event before, this is a great place to check in with your friends, with your bros, with your mentors, with your uncles, with your nephews in a real way in a circle like we do at Sacred Sons events. If you haven't been to Sacred Sons and you don't have a local men's circle, this is a great place to connect online. Honestly, I get messages so much that are a man from Switzerland, a man from Africa, a man from, Germany, wherever it is, saying, you don't have an event near me. And Sacred Sons, we do like 100 events a year. So we're getting out there, but we can't be everywhere and we can't be everywhere all the time. So this is a place to meet continuously, to share honestly where you're at in life, your wins, your struggles, your triumphs. We're here for it all. And there are going to be themed calls. So there's like a Sunday council, there's a father related call, and different calls around this way. And as we continue to build it out, it'll be, there'll be physical related calls where there's workouts and stuff like that too. So it's really a great place for community if you don't have that in your life and you're just like by yourself and you're struggling and I don't know what's next. This is where you start.
yeah, absolutely. I've these events are peak experiences that certainly help you take a leap forward in your life. But getting those weekly, maybe bi-weekly men's circles or a way to check in with someone is how you take little baby steps. Riverstone started a men's circle here in Eugene, and we go every other week. And it's just amazing to see the progress that you can do by taking this work and then applying it to your life on the daily. So if you are a man out there, you are suicidal, you're just going through it, life fucking sucks, please send me an email. Even if you just want to talk to somebody, if I can't talk to you, I will find somebody who can. I'm connected to a lot of beautiful brothers that would love, love, love to take the time to help you walk through a few items in your life that you're struggling with. Don't do this alone. There are brothers out there that care, that love you. There's a community here waiting for you. Even if you haven't met it yet, it's here. And I think Bric can attest to that.
Yeah, I love that you're in Eugene. I used to live in Portland for 6 years, and when I was talking about going through that rough time when I found Sacred Sons, that's where I was. Not even know men's circles were a thing. I didn't know men's work was a thing, and I'm somebody who like when I put my mind to it, I commit to it. So I found Sacred Sons. I found this event that was in Maui, a place I'd never get to go in my entire life, and I signed up for it, and I was put some money towards it because I had it, but stuff like this where it's like you can join the circle for 9.99. It's like the same thing as Netflix, but actually people who care about you and you can talk to somebody. And honestly, I I like to say men's circles monthly, therapy weekly, because that's how I rock. But now that the
Mm-hmm.
circle's here, I'm going to be doing the circle also weekly, and it's going to be cheaper than my therapy. So I'm not saying that men's circles are a replacement for therapy by any means, but it's a place to talk. It's a place to be vulnerable, and it's a place to share things that maybe to get out of your head. Because for me, when I'm just looping things in my head and I have nobody to talk to, that's when I start to go spiraling down. And I think being in a community of like-minded people where people can just accept you for what you're going through in your life is when you can start spiraling up.
Yeah, absolutely. When you get something in your life that feels heavy, you can say, "Hey, I'm going to take this to circle," instead of just letting it spin like a hamster wheel in your brain over and over.
100%. We should have called it the spiral.
Well, Bric, it's been wonderful to get to know you a little bit better. It was an honor to witness the gathering that you and your team collaborated on for C9. I'm so proud of all of us that were gathered, and I'll say it again, without you, there would be so many souls that have no idea how powerful the medicine of masculine alchemy is. Whatever you're doing, keep going, and you have my full support.
Thank you so much, man. I just wanted to take a moment to say, like, thank you too for how you showed up at Convergence. I saw you like in those moments, and without people like you, we couldn't be doing it either. It takes the village. And if it was just me, I'd be there if I need to be just, grabbing everybody's suitcase, bring it to their camp, but like I'd be much more miserable without people like you. So thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many moments that I felt like I let slip by. So if you had a magical moment in C9 and I didn't mention it, don't feel like it wasn't as prevalent as everything else. The moon was brighter than I've ever seen it before. The kitchen and the food that was coming out of that kitchen tasted better than any food. The sanctuary
Shout out
was
to
rocking.
Sanctuary.
Oh my gosh. Bryce and Jamie and brother Troy giving out massages. There was so many moments that I want to speak to. So if I didn't get around to your moment, just know that it was holy and sacred, then that I saw you too. And all the talks that we had from Kevin and Vince and Chrissy really just melted my heart. And I really do feel like a new purpose with new hope and passion and compassion for the world. And I can't wait to see what happens next.
Let's go.
If someone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, you could hit me on Instagram, Bric Bain, Bricbain. If you have a question about coming to a Sacred Sons event, email me at bric, sacredsons.com. And if you want to find out more information about Sacred Sons, you can go to sacredsons.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Bric Bain. Check out Aaron on YouTube today and be sure and like and subscribe to the Sacred Sons YouTube channel to listen to more medicine as it pertains to the healing movement. I'd like to thank Bric for coming on today. I'd like to thank our partner, Brotherhood of Cascadia, And I'd like to thank all of you for listening. Be sure and join us November 9th for the Portland Immersion, a 2-day event by Sacred Sons led by Bryce Gill and Aidan McCarthy. If you need help finding men's work in your area, be sure to email us at themensmovementpodcast@gmail.com, and I will link you up with events near you. Next up, we will be speaking with Kareem Manuel. He is the owner and entrepreneur over at We Society, a facilitator of men's work, and a hip-hop artist. Until then, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.